We begin with the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol, preparing to unveil new witness testimony at tomorrow's hearing.
It will be the committee's first public hearing since they sat down with former White House counsel Pat Cipollone. In addition to hearing from Cipollone, we are learning that former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon says he is now willing to testify in public. That's his condition. His compliance follows former President Trump waiving executive privilege for Bannon. And members of the committee say that Bannon will not be the focus of tomorrow's hearing.
Donald Trump sent out the tweet that would be heard around the world. The first time in American history when a president of the United States called a protest against his own government. People are going to hear the story of that tweet and then the explosive effect it had in Trump world and specifically among the domestic violent extremist groups.
Let's go now to CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane. Scott, good morning to you. I guess it's actually early afternoon now. Been a long day already. What do you expect from tomorrow's hearing, and how significant of a role will Pat Cipollone's so far closed-door testimony play out in public?
You think today's a long day? Just wait for tomorrow, Tony and Tanya. This will be a marathon hearing tomorrow afternoon. It has the potential of being a little bit longer than previous hearings because the committee has just secured this star witness, this witness they've been pining for weeks, if not months. The former White House counsel, Pat Cipollone. We're being advised it's likely you'll hear or see excerpts of that deposition from Cipollone from Friday as part of tomorrow's hearing or a later hearing later in the week. The past being prologue for this committee, they take recorded chunks of these key interviews and synthesize them into their hearings to show what they've found, to tell a story, or to further the investigation. So this is the first hearing since the star witness spent 8 hours behind closed doors. What's the focus of tomorrow's hearing? I'm told it'll be the mobilization of the mob on January 6th, not just the movements of the hundreds, if not thousands of people who are unlawfully here on Capitol grounds, but the connection between far-right groups and domestic violent extremists with the mobilization of the crowd, the plotters, the planners, the accused conspirators. And Tanya and Tony, the big question that underscores tomorrow's hearing, what connection does this committee draw between the far-right groups or the mobilization of the mob and Trump's inner circle?
That will certainly be the question a lot of people want answers to. But Scott, as we mentioned earlier, Steve Bannon has also now said he is willing to testify. What could his testimony provide to the committee, and why is the Justice Department saying, hey, look, this offer is really not genuine, take it with a grain of salt?
Well, this is another would-be star witness, and we know this because the committee made a very early request. In fact, the committee issued a subpoena for the deposition and documents from Steve Bannon last year. He defied that subpoena and is now being criminally charged. And just a few moments ago in court, the Justice Department told a judge they are dubious about Bannon's offer to come forward and talk to the committee, saying it's not genuine and it's an attempt just before his criminal trial for contempt of Congress to soften the ground, maybe soften the juries, maybe win a postponement of the trial. So they have concerns about how genuine Bannon's testimony would be. The January 6th committee has been open to talking to Bannon. We'll see if there can be a meeting of the minds between now and the end of this week when the hearings are expected to formally end.
Yeah, I tell you, if he does it under oath, behind closed doors, multiple hours, it could yield interesting information. If it's a live sort of radio-style performance where it's freewheeling, I think it might be less valuable. In any case, another possible witness or person to testify, Scott, I have here a former spokesperson for the Oath Keepers may testify tomorrow. Do we know anything about him? What might he be able to tell the committee?
Yeah, Tony, there are reports that a spokesperson for the Oath Keepers may be a component of tomorrow's hearing. And we've seen in previous hearings that witnesses have been called not to have an open Socratic dialogue or question and answer session with the committee, but more to kind of fill a niche or fill a hole and to a degree have perhaps a scripted back and forth with the committee. So what they're doing is keeping these things between the goalposts, navigating a further disciplined storytelling at each of their hearings. Any witness tomorrow would likely speak to what the committee says it's going to show, that there was a mobilization of a crowd and that the far-right groups played a role in it. We also know that the committee is going to hone in on a December 2020 tweet by President Trump in which he said that January 6th would be something big and that people should be there, perhaps drawing connective tissue between that tweet and the movement and the plotting of those far-right groups. Tomorrow has the potential to be far and away the most dynamic hearing so far from this committee, again, because they've secured that testimony from the former White House counsel on the eve of the hearing.
More potential bombshells could come out of this hearing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much. And again, we will bring you live coverage of that hearing, the January 6th committee hearing, in a CBS News special report beginning at 1 p.m. Eastern.